Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Blue Monday, how are you, Blue Monday? Got to work.
We got two big stories today on the Savage Nation. The fake black has quit as the head of the NAACP in Spokane because she failed black. Just as we had a fake man pretending to be a woman and the media literally gushed all over him, here we had a woman who was born white, lied when she signed up for the job at NAACP. I don't know how she got the job, but she faked being black, and she pushed the black liberation movement, the fake social justice movement, all the communist garbage that you've been putting up with from this organization and those like it have come from fakers like her who are doing it for personal gain. You heard me. They're using race as a weapon against America, and frankly, you have to stand up and speak out about it. Rachel Dolezal quits as head of the NAACP in Spokane, and she says, it's not about me. She faked being black. She changed her appearance to appear more ethnic. She lied about her race for years. She was outed by her parents. Her estranged parents came forward saying she has routinely ID'd as a black woman when she's biologically white. So what is this about race and ethnicity? And there's a bigger question here. Is it time for the NAACP to move on? We have a black president. We have a black attorney general. We have blacks running middle-level government in the United States of America. What is the purpose of the NAACP? That's the real question here. And there's another question. What a racket. Wait until I read to you her resignation letter. You'll see what these leftists really are. A revolutionary using race as a weapon against the middle class in America. Another big topic is the liberal psychotics who ride around with Stop Monsanto on their bumpers with little bumper stickers. They don't even know what Monsanto does. These are the little lily white whites driving around fearing everything they eat, breathe, and drink, and they're convinced that GMOs are killing them. Well, let me tell you something. Nature has been doing GMOing from the beginning of evolution. Man has been hybridizing plants and animals from the day animal husbandry began and plant husbandry began. Have you idiots no idea how your food has been where your food is derived from? I'm going to prove to you beyond doubt that GMOs are very safe, and it's the leftists trying to destroy our food supply who have you believing otherwise. So we have two major topics. And the first topic is the fake black quitting the NAACP. You probably saw the story. She's at the Spokane, Washington chapter. Her parents came forward and said she's lied. She's been white since birth. And she gave a resignation letter. And when I read you the resignation letter, you'll understand what a faker this woman is. And I want to know why she hasn't been arrested by federal and state authorities for identity theft, false applications, and whatever else applies. Let me explain something to you. If you applied for a job and lied about your background, you'd probably not only be fired, you might be arrested. Why is she not being arrested? Why is the NAACP silent on this issue? Well, these are some of the questions that need answering. Now, before we go into these questions, the phone number here is 855-400-7282, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. I want to begin the show, as you're calling that number, with something beautiful. And don't play it yet. But Friday night I was driving to a restaurant. I heard a song from Colombia, Los Caminos de la Vida, a Spanish song. And the lyrics really struck me as amazing. I want you to listen to this for 1 minute, and I'll tell you why. See, it's got a little of the Indian in it because it's from South America. Some of the rhythmics are Indian. And the song is a heartbreaker if you actually know the lyrics. And the reason I'm playing Los Caminos de la Vida, it's about a man, and the song is called The Paths of Life, Los Caminos de la Vida. And it's about a man who remembers what life was like when he was a boy. And he said, I used to think that life was different when I was a little boy. I used to think that things were easy, like yesterday. And it's all about his single mother who is dying and sick. And it's so touching, it's unbelievable. And the reason it touched me is because so many millions of single mothers out there have killed themselves, worn themselves down to the bone to raise their children right. And I think this song speaks to all of those single mothers. The Paths of Life, Los Caminos de la Vida. And you don't want to hear something funny? When I went in the restaurant, I went in singing the song Los Caminos de la Vida, and there's a couple of guys, two from Mexico, one from Guatemala. And the minute I saw them, they say, "Hey, Michael," I said, "Los Caminos de la Vida." Immediately, they broke into the first stanza with me, put our arms around each other, and we sang. They were thrilled to know that I knew this song. It touched them, and it touched me. And what I'm trying to say to you is that America, when it was a melting pot, benefited from the immigrants who came here. And virtually every immigrant group that comes here brings something new to the melting pot that is a benefit to the social order as a whole. Do I have to tell you about what the Irish brought, what the Italians brought, what the Jews brought, what the Germans brought? Virtually every group brings something positive that becomes part of the larger culture, which is what made America great. But now Obama is flooding America with too many immigrants who not only do not bring anything positive to this culture, but they hate this culture. They hate this society. They hate the flag. They hate the language. They hate everything that we stand for. And it's all a conscious attempt to turn us into a third world cesspool. And that's why I celebrate a Spanish song to show you how beautiful multiculturalism should be. This song underlines the hardships of growing up, as I said to you, in a single-parent family living in poverty. And it's a reality that millions of people in America still experience, by the way, and around the world, probably tens of millions. And the song is dedicated to all the mothers in the world. And it's about the singer addressing and touching different people. He didn't understand how hard life was till he became a man. How many of us look at life differently that we become men, and part of us is still a boy and not understanding why we're not happy? It's because we won't become men and look at the world through a man's eyes. In other words, we don't want to see the world as men. We want to see the world as boys. And we keep screaming about this and screaming about that. Well, the world isn't a perfect place. And just remember how hard it is for people other than yourself. Okay, so you paid a little more for your jet fuel this week. So you had to put a little more money into the drywall in the mansion you're building. Oh, you had to pay an extra few dollars in taxes. Well, that's not what this song is about. No. The paths of life are not what I used to hope, are not what I used to believe, are not what I used to imagine. The paths of life are very hard to travel, they're hard to walk, and I can't find a way out. It's a very existentially interesting song. And the reason I'm playing it for you again is to emphasize the beauty of multiculturalism when you have a culture that comes here and offers something rather than how to blow buildings up and blow up children at a soccer game. Why are we bringing them in here when they hate us? Why are we bringing in so many throwbacks from a religion that is guaranteed to bring hatred to the country? There's only one answer. Now I want to talk about Rachel Dolezal quitting as head of the Spokane NAACP. I'm going to read you her resignation letter. I am also going to talk about the safety of GMOs and how nuts and throwbacks like Neil Young, the rock musician who should be in a rocking chair in an old age home, is now about to release a 36th studio album called The Monsanto Years. And the album features the collaboration of Neil Young and Willie Nelson's sons, Micah and Lucas. And it targets Monsanto, the company known for producing food made from genetically modified organisms, or GMOs. And the song is so vile in its hatred and stupidity that only a rock musician who spent his life smoking dope and talking to other dopey rock musicians and actors could actually believe the rubbish that he's singing. Let me explain something to you. GMOs can save millions of lives. It's the environmentalists who are doing real harm to the world. And the best example of this is golden rice. Does anyone out there know what golden rice is? It's a GMO-created rice. It's enhanced with vitamin A, producing beta-carotene. I happen to know that one of the biggest problems in the third world was blindness in children. And do you know why they were going blind? Because it was from vitamin A deficiency. Even to this day, 500,000 people, mainly children, will die from vitamin A deficiency. And 500,000 people, mostly children, 500,000 people, mostly children, will lose their sight. And about 6,000 of them will die from vitamin A deficiency. And that is why companies spent a fortune hybridizing rice, in this case, in order to make certain that the rice was rich in vitamin A, in this case, beta-carotene. It was to stop the blindness. It was to cure blindness. And so these idiots, these morons, are singing about GMOs. I see idiots in Marin County, California, driving around with "Stop Monsanto," lily-white morons who are afraid of everything in the world. They're afraid of black people, brown people. They're afraid of Asian people. They're afraid of UFOs. They're afraid of fluoride. They're afraid of brain waves in the air. They're afraid of pesticides. They're afraid of GMOs. Little chickens running around, afraid of the whole world. Let me explain to you how corn was developed. Do you know how corn was developed? Well, it was developed by the evil Native Americans and Central Americans over a long period of time. Corn was originally a grass with a very small group of flowers on the top, or seeds rather, and they started to hybridize it by picking the grasses with the largest seeds and cross-pollinating them or cross-matching them with other grasses with large seeds. Over and over and over, and through millennia, they became corn. Do you understand that? Corn didn't just happen by itself. It was hybridized by Indian farmers until it became corn. Should we now have a bumper sticker that says, what, disinter them from their graves and try them in the United Nations for making corn? Do you understand that the cherry that you eat, do you understand that the pear that you eat, do you understand that the wheat that you eat, do you understand that virtually everything that you eat has been genetically modified, if not by nature, then by man, and it is not toxic? This is a scare tactic of the radical left, who are afraid of everything. Everything scares them. And was it not for this wheat, the golden rice, the miracle grain, enhanced with vitamin A, 500,000 more children a year would die from blindness because of vitamin A deficiency. And many of those lives could be saved if golden rice were in their diets. But the ongoing hatred of anti-GMO hippie activist groups and their lavish scare campaign, with a global war chest estimated to exceed $500 million a year, have kept golden rice off the global market. Do you understand that this is the same scare tactic that's being used with the fake global warming data? Do you understand how dangerous the left is to the survival of the human race? This is the Savage Nation. I'll be back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Your Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust for tangible assets, gold and silver. Call 800-BUI-COIN. Welcome back to the Savage Nation. There are two topics, and you're only calling on one of them, which is fine. I mean, the callers determine what interests them. I talked about the fake black quitting as head of the NAACP in Spokane, and that's a huge story, and you've got to read her resignation letter to see what a devout revolutionary she really is, and how she really was using race as a weapon against the middle class, as do most civil rights organizations. They use their race as a weapon against innocent people, in my estimation. And when I read the resignation letter, you'll see what's behind most of this, by the way. The big story for most of you, though, is the issue of GMOs. Many of you are freaked out over GMOs. You don't even know what they are. You have no background whatsoever in science, and yet you're panicked into thinking that GMOs are unsafe. What you don't know is that the supporters and partners who are involved in the $500 million a year PR campaign against GMOs reads like a directory of European church and government-sponsored social justice and development groups. The very same groups who are promoting the global warming lie are promoting the lie about GMOs. And I will prove it to you. Patrick Moore, one of the founders of Greenpeace in the 1970s, a bona fide true environmentalist, quit Greenpeace and now works to expose Greenpeace's actions in the developing world. And he has joined with golden rice inventor Ingo Potricus in calling for putting Greenpeace on trial for crimes against humanity. Did you hear me? There are other humanitarian and environmental groups that have come to recognize the important role